So this talk is called number 12. And if some of you have seen the description, you know what we're talking about. Do anybody know what I mean with number 12? That read the description of the talk. Any guesses? Twelve steps? No, not directly. Not 12 years either. Close to, but let's see. So, yeah, the normal thing here. I work for Danske Bank, and I've been in Danske Bank for 16 years. That wasn't meant to be, but I'm still here, still there, and I'm super happy with that. I'm a principal agile coach, and let's see, I have some colleagues with me. Jon, if you stand up, is this also, or he did something else. So come and talk with us in the break. And I also have Anas, my boss, our leader, our lead, our head of, with me. So they're also open. So if you have some questions to our journey afterwards, come seek me out, or one of my colleagues. We have a booth out there if you want to interact more. First of all, I would like to thank you, let's say thank you to the community, the Agile community in Lithuania for welcoming us in. When we started up in Lithuania also, we were kind of, oh, where do we go? And we got a lot of help and insights from the community, so we're happy about that. So in Lithuania, Danske is doing primarily IT development, and we have a big back office area that are helping us out with smoothing our operation, making it more lean. So those are the kind of the activities we're doing here. And we're starting up our agile journey also. So back to the topic here. Number 12. They don't have any numbers, but this is the agile principle number 12, or the last one on the list at least. And what it says is that by reflecting on what we're doing, we're improving. One word that we also heard about before, I think is very important, is behavior. So a lot of the things we're trying to do when we're changing people is changing their behaviors. Is it easy to stop eating as much, start exercising more, stop smoking? Those are behaviors. Those are the things that we ask people to change normally when we go out and try to implement this. So it's not very easy. And I will show you our journey, and you will see that we at least have struggled a lot. We're in a good place now, I think. But we have had an extensive journey to get to here. So I'm going to talk about what has happened so far and our reflections on that, and what is kind of the next steps we're going into and what the reasons are for that. To kind of set the scope, what we're working with is the entire development organization. So that means IT, what most people would call the business inside, and also our operation, our back office. We believe that combining those gives the most valuable impact. So we're up to 2,600 people that we're working with right now. But at the same time, we are working on changing the culture inside the entire organization of approximately 20,000 people. But on a day-to-day basis, we work with 2,600 people. So there's more than us three doing that, I should say. So thankful for that. So our journey started approximately 8 years ago. And I would like you to help me answer a question. Why even go agile, do agile, be agile, whatever you want to call it? Goikus talked a little about it, that there should be kind of a purpose. So I would like you to share your thoughts on what our purpose of going agile was. This is not the same as the rest that's up here, but if you go in here, I would like you to mention what you think is the reason for us going agile. So if you could like to share that, or what do you think that are the correct, why would you go agile? What do you think is a good case of going agile? So if you could share that with me and the rest of the people here. If I move this screen to the other side, you can also see it. There. And for this exercise, god damn it. There we go. Transform. To sugarcoat chaos. Save time, be more efficient. Fast results. Improve customers' experience. Now it starts to take off. Trendy, yeah. To be more efficient, adapt. Somebody else is doing it. Happy at work, I like that one. Great relationship. So, I don't know if I want to say they are really good, but I didn't ask you about that. I asked you about what you thought. Are we able to control products, to be modern? People like to be modern. So, as this goes along, I'm switching back to my presentation again. And the reason why we went agile, to begin with, was actually an offering from IBM. We even negotiated about a rational suite from IBM, and we were pushing prices. We were a bank, right? So we didn't want to pay too much for it. So we were pushing them on price, and at a given time, they just said stop. But instead, we're going to give you a bunch of consultants, and we're going to help you using these tools more efficient by helping you go agile. So we wanted to become agile because we bought a software tool. I cannot recommend that. So we didn't have a why. We didn't have a clear why we wanted to go agile or change and as I'm saying, it was just because of agile. And don't do agile, be agile. So you have to know why you're doing something. So what happened here is that they were good consultants. So we set something up and people were onboarded kind of quickly and things were progressing. But then all of a sudden it stops and it actually starts deteriorating again because these teams, this was only in IT, so these teams could do something, but the rest of the organization didn't care about it. And I do understand why they didn't care about it. I was a product owner to begin with. I went back to our business and said, oh, we're doing agile now. We can't promise you anything. We're just going to put it in the backlog and maybe you get it. That was my start of my journey, to be honest. So what happened here is that people in the team could change their processes, the way they were working. That is not easy to change, but if you're not that much controlled, you can do some changes and work in different manners. But our structures, our metrics, our policies, our governance, our budgeting, and our direction of doing projects are not very healthy when you want to do something more in an agile manner, a more flexible and to adapt to complexity. So that kind of blocked that entire transformation, our transaction, our growth, or whatever you want to call it. I will come back to a little about the structure, why they are in place and what they normally do when I'm through the timeline here. So that kind of stopped, and that kind of sucked. People started to do things the usual way. So what happened then is that kind of died out, that entire initiative. We also stopped the initiative. It was a project, right? So now it was implemented, so now we could stop it. So that kind of died out. There were 2 people still working in that part. I don't know how they were allowed to do that. Maybe they hid somewhere, but they were allowed. They're good people, but they were still in there. But at the same time, kind of a new movement starts. So other people starting to do mobile pay, and they figure out, okay, if you don't care about the structure in our organization, we just simply don't care about it, and we do whatever we want, then we can start get some traction. So these people then, what our reflection was, and what happened there was that we all of a sudden got IT and business together. So we got people to work together, actually. And that kind of created the bump. To be honest, I think this is the reason why we're still here today, in an agile perspective at least. And then we had the second generation moonshots. I don't know if you know about them in Lithuania, but June and Sunday. They were actually even more taking away from the structure. They were put in another building. They hired a university, people that worked with the human, with the limbic system in the brain, and all kind of weird people. And they put them in a house, separately away from the entire organization, and just asked them to, here's a bucket of money. Just come up with something. It's up to you. So they kind of removed the entire structure. They built their own culture and their own processes. And they also shut off and took off and kind of fostered that idea. So, but what do? Do we then remove the entire structure of a bank? Maybe something about it thinks that's a good idea, but not everybody. So what happens in that reflection is that they are having successful understanding what the customers actually need. And here we start to focusing actually on our next step on what the customers actually wanted. Back to some of the things, instead of delivering X number of features, what actually have outcome and impact on the things we're doing. So we're finding that customer journey mapping and customer journeys make sense because we all of a sudden can see what kind of things that do not work. And if you're talking Scrum, you can put these items down here at the top of the backlog and then start working on them. Again, measuring, do it have an impact or not? And if it's have an impact, we're good. If not, we need to do something more, slightly adjust it. So start to becoming agile. Another thing this does is that we're thinking about customer journeys. We're thinking about products instead of projects. So instead of just doing something, because when you do a project, or at least when we did a project, we started it up, and then we're finishing it, and then customers say, oh, if you did this and this and that, I would use it the double, I would put double the amount of money into it. And we're like, oh, okay, let's have a project proposal for that, let's have a decision if we want to fund it, let's put it through top management, and half a year later, we're ready. Oh, no, we're not. Now we need to find the people to work on that project, so that takes 1 or 2 months more. So all of a sudden, we have a feedback cycle of over half a year before we can react on something. So we start figuring out here to focusing on our products instead of projects. And we're organizing them around customer journeys. I will come back to why that makes sense. So now we got kind of the customer focus, and we have the focus of products and not projects. And we have the customer in the center. In this time, IT is still, some are still doing some agile things, especially these moonshots. But the business side haven't moved that much yet. They moved with the discussion here and isolated in these initiatives, but it would have been still at this time an IT thing. So And I started out in the IT part. Jon, my colleague, started out in the business side. So he started working here, how do we get the business more involved? They build a program how to get ambassadors from the business and getting them into understanding this context and how it worked. And to be honest, I think that we maybe fought a little in the beginning of who are right to be the agile people, to be honest, which is not a good thing either, to be honest. So what we got here is the more awareness inside the business area about this agile thing and actually understanding how it's involved them, instead of telling them, put something on a backlog and maybe you get it, maybe you don't. So what we do, and I heard what's said about scale, but this is our brand we use inside. So what you hopefully hearing is that we're kind of trying to descale things actually. We're trying to put things inside these customer journeys and having focus here. What we did here is that we collected now IT and business in one unit and started focusing on the things we wanted to deliver. So now we have IT and business together, both coaches but also inside the initiatives. It's still kind of a one-size-fits-all. We create our own framework that is still kind of still being used today, come back to that, but it's kind of slow, and it's a lot of desk work where we're sitting back and figuring out how things should be. So then we decide we probably need to start doing some of these things ourselves. We had others starting doing something for us, but then we went out as coaches inside these customer journeys and worked together with them. So we actually started our inspection at that. So actually our framework kind of thing more became kind of guidelines and something for us to put under the arm to kind of have a starting point. And we're starting to staff us up on Agile coaches. We are 12 today, 14? 14, okay. So we kind of starting to buff that up to be able to have some traction on it. And then what we have now is that we kind of able to show that it's actually start working in some of the areas we go into. So now we have areas that have a customer journey. They have a real target of something they need to change. They also have an understanding about what their domain is. So they have a mission. They have a mission, let's say, that's not a bank mission, but putting a man on the moon. So what do you need to put a man on the moon? You need different people with different capabilities and capacity to be able to come to that mission, to figure and clear that mission. Also, if somebody been in the military, you also have a mission, and you need to staff your mission with the people that can complete the mission for you. So we're focusing around that target and that mission we need to accomplish, and we're helping these areas to staff up, not helping them with staffing up, but showing the way what they should think about when they're staffing these areas up. And we today have 29 of these areas, which we call them. Areas are, you have the teams, and then you have the areas, and then you have units. That's just our terminology. So these areas have their own individual customer journeys on what they are doing, and again, by that. Also showing this, so we have today, back to again the mandate, we have the top level leaders buying into this, and then starting to understand why it is. And now we actually have the why. Now we actually know why we want to do Agile. So it's not because of doing Agile, there's some clear goals we want to accomplish in our organization. And yeah, you're starting to measuring on outcomes and impacts instead of being happy with delivering X number of features. I'm still pretty sure we're not good at deleting the things that doesn't work, but it's a journey. So with that journey, there's more than these. I just want to show you 4 things that I think is kind of important here, and there's more. First of all, this structure thing. Again, if we have budgeting that tells that we are a project organization and we're working with products, that doesn't work. If you're measuring people on the wrong things, on what outcome they provide, and if they're spending the money that we're giving them in the budget, so we're happy, yeah, you spent 20 million, and we don't care what the outcome or the impact was, that doesn't help. If we are measuring people as individuals instead of teams, that is also kind of hard to get people to work together as a team then. And inside this, to kind of influence this, we are working with our leadership, how they help with this impact. Because they can be the biggest blocker, but they can also be the biggest catalyst for these changes. So understanding that we have some structure, some metrics, and some policies inside here that need to help us out. And if we don't start working on those, we're just going to hit the ceiling again, and people will not be able to change. And the reason why we have structures in place is actually, if you're working in finance in a company or risk, there's some structures to protect some of these things. And that's kind of okay and natural. So we probably still need them, but we need them in a way so we can be able to change the culture by changing the way we see and behave. That's been one of our biggest learnings. And therefore, we also, before, we kind of focused on the teams and the individuals. Now we're doing a lot. We have our leadership, so we're combining the leadership. So we're making leadership teams consisting of IT, of the business, and of back office, working together inside these customer journeys, having the leadership responsibility. And therefore, we're now helping these people to train them on their behaviors and on how they're impacting things and how they help the organization in those structural things. So we can help them change that. Together with the organizational parts, how do we work with budgeting, capacity in the future? How do we make sure that things are pulled instead of pushed in? How do we limit the things in air not done? So that's also kind of our eye-opening. There's a limit to what you can do of Agile if you're only focusing on this. And these things are normally hard to get. We weren't super focused maybe, but yeah, it took us around 6 to 7 years to get there. Could probably have been done faster, but and then this, no buying. We are using consultants and we are using people that help us train people and shining a light on things we don't understand and getting insight and inspiration. We're using that a lot. We also started out with 4 consultants that were good at sharing, and we are kind of put us into space, so they needed to share with us, so we also grow. But to make this sustainable, you have to be able to lift this transformation or transition, growth, whatever you want to call it, yourself. If you don't do that, it's not going to be sustainable. That will be like me going out in an area and telling people what to do. The next day when I leave, it's going to fall down again. I need to grow the leaders, I need to grow the Scrum Master and the product owner and the team members. So these people here need to, the people in the organization need to be part of this transformation. Or at least from my point of view, it's going to fail. There's no plug and play. We are inspired by Scrum, Primer, Scrum, Safe, Less, Scaled, Agile, I can't remember the names now. So we're inspired by all of those and learning what they're talking about, and Management 3.0 and whatever, you name it. So we're inspired by those, but thinking that we can take a framework of something that works somewhere else and drag down over our organization doesn't work. I would though say, if you're doing it this way, is that the transformation, I wasn't allowed to use transformation, but the movement is going to take a longer time. You could also just take a framework and throw in here, and it would probably just take a year or two, and you will be kind of mature. And then you could, of course, start picking on the things that doesn't work. But just as having features in production and removing those that doesn't create value, that is really, really hard. So, but if you're good at that, do a framework and then pick away the things that doesn't work for you afterwards. But most are not good at that. So we have chosen to take the long road up the mountain without too many shortcuts. Now and then we take a shortcut, but then we reflect on it afterwards. So that is kind of summing the things up here. The structure, we have to allow the change to happen. If we don't, it's going to be limited. We have to do it on all levels for this to succeed. We have to be able to make it sustainable. We have to lift it ourselves and take responsibility for it. And we can't take any shortcuts. We need to grow these things and again aspect and adapt our again and again to learn from what we're doing in our engagements in the organization. That was what I had to on the agenda. So now I would like to hear if there's any questions. And now you can hide the image up there. Or people can just shout if they want. I'm totally okay with that. But I know we're in Lithuania, so, and Danes are the same. Oh, so there's something with transparency and honesty, right? Okay. That wasn't nicely done. Oh, together with my colleagues to say, okay. So then we have to show 1 to 10 fingers. Are you okay with that? That's political answer, right? So truly agile, truly having those very short feedback loops, putting things into production, living up to the principles and values, we are a long way from that. I would say a 3. If I look at other companies that are still fumbling some of the places we are doing, I would say a 7. But okay, the clear real answer is I would say a 3. And I know that's not a good selling point, but that's just to be honest. You could also say we matured along the way and found out that we weren't as agile as we thought. We still have a lot of colleagues that are running around and say they're agile. So yeah. Yes? Competences, okay. So first of all, they have to have self-awareness. You have to work with yourself before you can work with other people. So you have to rest in yourself and the way you're working. And that's why we're doing these workshops together with them and are doing coaching sessions of the leadership. So they have to be able to kind of catalyst other people. And there's no, I mean, you can't go to school and take that subject and then you're there. But they have to be able to catalyst other people. They have to be able to motivate other people, but of course also still show the direction. Just as Goiko talked about before, but if you don't have a goal, if you don't have a direction to go into, you can go whatever way you want. I think it was the cat said to Alice in Wonderland, if you don't know where you're going, every path is the right path. So they have to work with those things, and they have to work with helping us lifting up the organization. Being agile, that's also a good thing. If we take our kind of where we want to end up is that we are working on, and there's a lot of things under these words, so now we're getting 3 words and then you can interpret them the wrong way, but it's to get better. We want to make sure that we deliver something that have a real impact on our customer. By doing that, we also think that we can be faster by having the faster feedback loops, and we need to become more focused. We have so many things flying in the air normally at any given time, and everything is prioritization 0. I actually heard somebody coming up with prioritization -1 to get ahead of the things. So that is our kind of goals for the moment. Yeah, we started up by doing this in IT, and then we got the business side on board. But the good thing is that our CEO is both responsible for group IT and also the process side. So he was able to sponsor that thing and lift it up to level 1 and 2 managers. He's a level 2 manager himself, so he was able to kind of put that up there and put it on the board and the focus. And we have the honor of having I don't know if it's an honor. He's very relaxed. So we have a meeting with him once a month of kind of bringing those impediments that are hindering us, and then he's bringing it forward or going out to his immediate leaders and discuss with them what kind of behavior they need to focus on. It takes a lot of time. That is the most valuable thing. It takes, again, back to the behavior part. If I could change everybody's, if I could get the entire population in Lithuania to stop smoking tomorrow, I am pretty sure I could get more money doing that than working for Danske. So changing that behavior and that journey and seeing those things. When I started with the interest for agility, for me it hits kind of overnight why it was important. I'm not going to share the story now. You can get it afterwards if you want. But for me, it came kind of instant. For most people, it doesn't. So I'm not because I'm good, but in my journey, I'm maybe up here. And then all of a sudden I approach somebody that just started, and they're kind of down here. That gap in between, you have to close that to come to the same understanding. And the next week or next month, I'm talking with somebody else where the gap is also here. So then I have to close that gap. So it's repeating that over and over again. So yeah. Which team of those living in Agile? I would say we have people that are cross-functional. So I would both say, and it's not because we're in Lithuania, I would say Denmark and Lithuania. And it's because of some of our customer journeys as mobile pay, Sunday and June, and also some other initiatives that you probably have never heard of, are progressing very well in this, and we are having people on both locations. So it's not the one or the other. So yeah. Yeah. That differs a lot. We have people in Danske markets. They release whenever they finish with something. So that could be minute by minute, or if they don't doing anything for some reason, day by day. And then we have somebody that have a lot of more processes for being able to release. Our kind of backbone, our core systems is have programs that are 40 years old. So that is not being changed overnight. So that's kind of a monthly release process. So everything from 1 minute to a month. So it depends a lot on the maturity. But we're very focused on and knowing that by bringing these down, we get real feedback. asking people about something, they would just answer what they think is correct. So we want to kind of bring this down. We had that one, right? And that one also. And that one. And I think you're through, right? Did you transform to Agile only IT or all bank business operations? Okay. To begin with, as I said, it was only IT. Now we're bringing aboard both business, IT, and operation/back office. Depends on what you want to call it. It's not IT operations, it's back office. We are mostly succeeding, to be honest, with the business and IT. And it's not the operations' fault, but they were kind of the main focus to begin with, and now we're taking operations. Some of my colleagues have worked inside that domain, so they're better at remembering them and getting the leadership to remember them than others. But yeah, what the idea is that we have these three amigos that have the total responsibility for the customer journey, and therefore we need all three.